Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for coming to this afternoon session on environmental science and environmental science. Today, our guest speaker will be Mr. Norris McDonald, who is the president of African American Environmentalist Association. With that, I'll leave him to introduce more about himself and what he stuff as well. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me to be a featured speaker at the National Organization for the Advancement of Black Chemists and Chemical Engineers. Delighted to be here. I'm going to proceed, and if you have questions, you can just interrupt me. I don't mind that because you might forget what you maybe thought you wanted to ask about. But the theme of my presentation here today is that blacks do not own any energy infrastructure and resources in the United States. And that's a frustration for me as an environmentalist working on energy. Again, blacks do not own any energy infrastructure and resources in the United States. Of course, there's case law on the wall, so everybody knows about him. But I mean, in general, we do not own energy infrastructure and resources. So what our African American Environmentalist Association has tried to do is we've tried to stimulate entree into the energy industries. So instead of we've done the weatherization programs. I wrote the shared energy savings law where companies would implement retrofits for free in exchange for a percentage of the savings. I wrote that law, and that was back in the 80s, signed by President Reagan in 1986. But we've wandered off the beaten path a little bit because blacks don't own any energy infrastructure and resources. One of those is liquefied natural gas. We approached the liquefied natural gas industry to try to get some black ownership in the liquefied natural gas area. Now, not so much in the tanker and the shipping and conversion because that's really capital intensive, but what we tried to work with the industry, the companies on, was to maybe give 51% ownership of the pipeline. With the LNG projects, once they ship the liquefied natural gas from overseas and they dock it somewhere, and it's really politically tough for them to get approvals for the docking because you have these huge ships full of liquefied natural gas, and the communities would feel threatened. And it's a funny thing about the liquefied natural gas facilities, they would always seem to find a black community. Whether it was in Baltimore, it's a place called Turner Station that they found. Whether it was in California, it was also down near Long Beach, about a mile from a black community. So we would go in and try to negotiate and say, look, we could get political support for your project if you give up some ownership for the project. They weren't going for it. We also did this in California. They wanted an LNG offshore facility about 15 miles north of Malibu, and it's about 30 miles north of Malibu and 15 miles off the coast. So we said if you give some minority ownership, black and Latino, that'll help Arnold Schwarzenegger with the political situation. They didn't do it, the project failed. So we've done that in Baltimore with a company there. We tried to do it, the project hasn't gone forward. We tried to do it in California, project failed, didn't go forward. So they're not listening to this solution, which I think would help. But in the liquefied natural gas area, that's one we definitely pursued. Interestingly now, the script is flipped. We thought we would be importing liquefied natural gas back then. But due to hydraulic fracturing, now it looks like we might be exporting LNG, but that's a different topic. Another area we went into was converting, actually, in the global warming case, and you scientists will hopefully like this, is that you can convert carbon dioxide into gasoline. And so we were promoting that. I guess for the scientists, basically it uses the Fischer-Tropsch method, the same method that the Germans used to convert coal into diesel fuel. And now the only company really doing it, I believe, is Sasol in South Africa, and I met with them there. But I won't go so much into that. But that's one thing we were really interested in because it might provide some entree. And that was part of a bigger program we were trying to implement to address global warming. But basically, just for the scientists out there, I'll quickly go over the process. You mix hydrogen with the carbon dioxide. That creates carbon monoxide. That's the gas to water shift. I'm sorry, the water to gas shift. And then, yes, sir.
Isn't there some controversy about this whole process of fracturing?
Oh.
As the impact it would have on the environment?
Huge controversy because of the chemicals they use in the process to get the gas out. They basically pump a lot of different chemicals, a number of them are proprietary. But one's diesel fuel and all other kinds of chemicals with sand and mud that they pump down under pressure to fracture the rock to get to the gas, and that's the process going now, but it can contaminate groundwater. We've established criteria, and it's on our website for companies. We didn't want to just come out opposed or supportive, but we established criteria to support or oppose a project if they met those criteria, each criterion, to our satisfaction. So yes, a lot of controversy with the hydraulic fracturing, but natural gas is one of the big fuels right now. I'm sorry, I was into that conversion process. You mix hydrogen with carbon dioxide to make carbon monoxide, and that's the water to gas shift. And then you mix hydrogen back with on the carbon monoxide side, and that's the gas to water shift through using the Fischer-Tropsch method to then make the gasoline. So carbon dioxide can be converted into a diesel fuel and then through refining into gasoline. It's very expensive, but it can be done because I'm not so sure about carbon sequestration where we just pump it in the ground and it stays. But if you could make it to a fuel, it would be great. Another area we entered was nuclear power. We were the first environmental group to support nuclear power. Boy, it's great timing now, right? But and our organization was the first environmental organization in the country to support nuclear power. Well, we also approached some nuclear power companies to get partial ownership. That is a 1% ownership option stake. I see somebody shaking their head here. But we did. We approached a few companies to try to do this before Fukushima, and I'll touch on Fukushima as well just for a second. Trying to get ownership. The way we came to support nuclear power is I'm a chronic acute asthmatic, and nuclear power plants do not emit any smog-forming gases, and they don't emit any carbon greenhouse gases. Right there. Plus, you can use warheads. You can convert warheads into nuclear fuel. That was kind of controversial. I think one of the plants that blew up, one of the reactors that blew up was actually using a MOX fuel, mixed oxide, and that's using the plutonium or highly enriched uranium from warheads. You can also use that in a power plant. Since I brought up nuclear power, let me just say real quickly that the Fukushima accident, we're studying it, we're looking at it. That goes back to our center side because there's not necessarily an African-American perspective on that. So we use our Center for Environment, Commerce, and Energy. I've toured about 12 nuclear power plants all over the United States, toured nuclear power plants in China, including their latest technology. It's called the pebble bed modular reactor. That's a totally different type of reactor. And if the Japanese had that, maybe that tsunami wouldn't have wrecked them. Just quickly, the way it works is a pebble bed modular reactor, PBMR. It uses about 400 tennis ball sized pebbles, and the uranium pellet is in the middle of the pebble with some sort of carbon graphite serving as moderator. So you get 400,000 of those in a big containment. And then helium is used as the coolant. And the graphite, of course, in the ball is the moderator. So it's a whole different type of plant. So if you have a problem in a plant like that, you can just disperse the 400,000 balls and end the fission reaction. Criticality is over with, and so you don't have a problem with that. So I won't get too much into that, but we do go off into these areas. I actually toured the only built pebble bed modular reactor plant in China. It's about 40 miles northwest of Beijing. And I did tour that plant among some of their other plants. Our latest project, in conclusion. You have a question? Listen.
You want to answer yours first?
Good afternoon. My name is Perry Catchings. I'm Vice Chairman of the Board of NOBCChE.
Okay.
I would just like to thank you very much for being a part of this presentation today and being the speaker. And wood chips galore. I mean, it sounds very encouraging. Part of the NOBCChE tradition, we would like to offer you our NOBCChE kente cloth.
Thanks.
Thus that you will forever be part of the NOBCCchE family.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
One more.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.